Well, rockers, thanks for turning on again this episode of Tye Dyed. And today is a huge, huge day in the radio program's history. We have David Grisman finally on the line. We finally get to talk to the man himself.
Finally lassoed me.
Oh, no way. Hi, David. How are you?
All right, Ron. How are you?
All right. You're on the left coast, right, tonight?
That's what some people call it, yeah. California. I originated in New Jersey.
Yes, you did. We're all excited about that.
I went to the same high school as the Shirelles.
Really? In Hackensack, right?
No, that was in Passaic High. I was merely born in Hackensack. I never actually lived there.
Okay.
I was born in Hackensack Hospital, and then I lived in Rochelle Park, Hasbrouck, Bergenfield, and Passaic. But I've been a Californian since around 1969. So.
Did that take any transition for you at all?
You know, actually, it was pretty smooth. I think it would be harder for someone from California to move to New Jersey and the West Coast folks 40 years ago. You know, when I moved out here, they were kind of mellower. You know, it was easy to navigate around a bunch of mellow people. You know.
Well, we are here today to talk to you about your record company and your website for acoustic disc and dog.
Acoustic Oasis is the new thing.
Yeah, yeah. And today, not only we're going to speak about that, but we're here to promote as much as we can the pizza tapes and the 3D set, and we want to find out the actual true story, infamous cassette that was lifted or so-called lifted.
Well, you know, that's a mystery. Is there, you know, I can't tell you that because I wasn't there when it happened, and I still don't really know what happened. The reason we call it the pizza tapes, I mean, you know, it was being called a number of things. I mean, if your listeners aren't familiar with this was... What happened was Tony Rice and myself, we were doing a project in my studio in 1993 called Tone Poems. It was an album of duets. Each tune was played on a different pair of vintage instruments, a different guitar and a different mandolin. So it was kind of part CD and part science experiment. A booklet with it with pictures of all the instruments, and kind of the idea is if the same two people played a whole bunch of instruments, you could appreciate the different sonic qualities and also be entertained. We were in the midst of this, and my studio was just filled with all these incredible instruments, old Martin and Gibson guitars and mandolins and all kinds of great things that collectors had lent me and some that friends had lent me. Tony Rice and Jerry Garcia had never played together and only met briefly one time, and I invited Jerry over to the studio to hang out, do some playing. He showed up for 2 consecutive nights. When he'd show up, we just stopped working on Tone Poems, just jam for the fun of it in the studio. It was just kind of an organic thing. It wasn't really designed as a recording project, although I recorded it, professionally, multi-track, and it was very well recorded. It was just for our own amusement, because that's one of the things that I enjoy about having my own studio. I just like recording everything. You know, I made copies for the participants. Back then it was on cassette. And one day I got a phone call a year or so later after this had gone down that WBAI in New York had apparently played 90 minutes of this music. Somehow they got a hold of, I guess, a 90-minute cassette. I never really heard what they played. Kind of got ticked off about it because unlike a live gig where you expect people will tape it, this was kind of like in my studio.
Right.
You know, it wasn't for a release.
It was almost like a little bit of voyeurism.
Yeah, but somehow people started trading tapes, and ultimately, I guess the Grateful Dead found 5,000 CDs somewhere and confiscated them. It got to be like a genuine bootleg thing. And of course, this just kind of ticked me off. People come up to me and ask me to sign this thing, and I'd be, kind of peeved about it. And a few years went by, and I developed a friendship with a guy named Rob Bleetstein, who you may know.
Oh, yeah.
He was working for the Gavin Sheet, which is kind of like the Billboard magazine of radio.
Sure.
And in fact, he had created a new category with a chart called the Americana chart. At some point in there, in the mid-'90s, Acoustic Disc, my CD company, hired Rob as to be our PR guy, and he kept telling me, you need to release this stuff, you need to release the pizza tapes, as he was calling it, and it was called several things. And finally, okay, I decided, and what people really liked about it is there's a lot of just talking going on, repartee, whatever. It was just the kind of what goes on, you know, when you get together and jam. And did tunes a couple of times, oh, let's do that again. So people really found this interesting. Didn't know how much of it to use, so initially I decided just to make one good CD out of it, because there was 3 or 4 hours of material, I guess 75, 78-minute version of it, and that was released as the pizza tapes. Mostly because that version of this, there were several versions of how these tapes got out, and one was that Jerry Garcia gave it to his scuba diving instructor in Hawaii, and the other one was that a pizza delivery boy purloined it off of his counter.
Right.
By the time we were dealing with this, Jerry had passed on, so I never really found out, and he may not have known. It's still a mystery, but I thought the pizza tapes kind of lent itself to some creative packaging in the form of like a pizza box and kind of a generic pizza chef.
Whose idea was that?
Mine.
Oh, beautiful. I mean, bravo.
You got to. It seemed as good as, and of course the disc itself looks like a pizza. Is a pizza.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, and it was very successful. One of our most successful releases, I think, sold about 160,000 units. And continues to sell. For the past 5 or 6 years, I've been focusing on creating an alternate distributing music that I have accumulated for almost 50 years now. The Acoustic Oasis, which is an all-download website, acousticoasis.com, where there are no limitations on the kinds of projects I can put out, other than, you know, securing the rights and the actual tapes or recording. For example, I decided to issue a certain project in a more complete version. In other words, the whole session, pretty much. The pizza tapes was a natural choice for this, and so we have the extra large pizza tapes, which is 170 minutes long. You can download it and burn it onto 3 different CDs. It's they're designed to kind of be configured like CDs, although we haven't sold individual tracks yet, but, you know, all kinds of things. You go to the Acoustic Oasis, and you go in a little doghouse in this desert, and inside is like a map of the house, and you go into different rooms. And the pizza tapes would be in the studio vault. And then there are videos in the screening room. There's the library has got historically important recordings, and there's the live vault with live performances. There's the guest room, which has projects that other people produce, things that, you know, maybe came out in the 80s only on cassette, things that you can't find on iTunes. And there's a lot of great music that slips through the cracks, and there's a lot of great music that I've been able to collect through the years, since we don't have to manufacture anything, although you can get any of these products in what we call a hard copy. We'll actually burn you CDs if that's what you want, but we're not obligated to manufacture them, so it's kind of limitless what I can put out.